Hello again, dear listener, and welcome back to this gentle corner of history. Tonight, we'll be tucking ourselves into another quiet tale from the distant past, and once more, I'm so glad you've chosen to spend your evening here with me. Perhaps you've had a long day and need a moment of stillness. Or maybe the snow is falling softly outside your window, and you're ready to drift off beside the fire. Wherever you are, whatever time it may be, thank you for being here. If you'd like, you can share where you're listening from in the comments. I always love seeing the little constellation of curious minds scattered across the world. And if these calming stories of history bring you comfort, do consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Now, take a deep breath. Let your thoughts slow, and come with me as we step back in time, to an age when winter wasn't just a season, but a trial, one that tested the endurance of every soul who faced it. Imagine it now, the world wrapped in frost. A medieval village nestled in the crook of a snow-laced forest. Smoke curling from crooked chimneys as the sun struggles to rise above a pale gray horizon. The trees are bare, the roads hardened into rutted ice, and every breath steams in the frigid air. Winter has returned. And for the people of this time, it means more than chilly mornings or snow-dusted fields. It means hunger. It means illness. It means isolation. But there was a time before the cold turned cruel, when winters followed a gentler rhythm, when snowfall was expected, but not feared, when the year moved in a steady cycle from planting to harvest, and the land provided in kind. That changed with the onset of the Little Ice Age, a centuries-long shift that chilled Europe to its bones. From the 1300s to the early 1800s, winters grew longer, colder, harsher. The seasons became erratic, and the delicate balance between survival and scarcity tipped dangerously. For farmers, this shift was devastating. Harvests failed without warning. Rains drowned the crops, or frost withered them too soon. Cattle grew thin with nothing to graze, and the granaries emptied far too early in the season. The people learned to dread the shortening days, not for their darkness, but for what that darkness brought with it. The creeping cold, the gnawing hunger, the relentless uncertainty. In some winters, the cold was so profound it defied belief. In 1408, the Thames froze solid, thick enough to support entire markets, where vendors sold roasted chestnuts and children played games upon the ice. But beneath the merriment was a sobering truth. This spectacle meant the crops had failed again, and famine would surely follow. Even the mighty and noble could not insulate themselves completely. Castles, though grand, were drafty and often ill-heated. Queen Blanche of Namur once wrote in a letter that she wore 3 gowns and still her fingers ached from the cold. The tapestries on her walls froze stiff, and the ink in her inkwell turned to ice. And yet, somehow, people endured. Peasants tucked straw beneath their floorboards to keep the chill from seeping up through the earth. They plastered their walls with mud to stop the icy wind from howling through the cracks. Children were bundled in layers of wool and linen, and still their noses ran red and raw. Despite it all, there were moments of warmth, even in the coldest months. Perhaps the most beloved of these was the Feast of St. Stephen, held on December 26th, a day of mirth and mischief in a season otherwise marked by restraint. The Lord of Misrule, a peasant or servant, was crowned to oversee the revels, issuing playful decrees and toasts to laughter. For a few brief hours, The barriers between master and serf melted in the firelight, and everyone shared in the cheer, with what little they had. Food was prepared from dwindling stores. Meat carefully preserved with salt. Grains painstakingly saved for this occasion, and the meat flowed, perhaps thinner than in autumn, but it was enough to lift spirits. And in this shared celebration, the people found not only joy, but strength. For community was the marrow of winter survival. Neighbors helped neighbors. A pot of soup left on a doorstep. A bundle of sticks quietly placed by a widow's door. These small acts wove a net of care that held everyone just a little closer to safety. The cold may have been merciless, but the people met it not with despair, but with compassion. Of course, not all survived. There were winters when the earth did not give, and sickness swept through hamlets like a bitter wind. In 1573, records from a Yorkshire village tell of an entire family perishing within a single week from fever, likely spread in the cramped, cold quarters of their home. And yet, others lived on, bearing the weight of grief, and still rising each morning to face the day, because they had no choice, but also because they believed spring would return. And it always did. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. The days lengthened. The snow melted in quiet rivulets down the thatched roofs. The fields softened underfoot. Plow. Monday marked the beginning of that turning. A day when the men would bless their plows and cut the first tentative lines into the thawing soil. Children would sing songs as they followed their fathers into the fields. Songs full of hope and longing, and the promise of green. Those furrows meant more than planting. They were acts of defiance against the cold, against despair. They were statements of survival, declarations that life would begin again. And here we are, centuries later, wrapped in blankets and warmed by lights that glow at the flick of a switch. The hardships of medieval winter may feel distant to us now, and yet their lessons are timeless. That community matters. That resilience is born from shared struggle. That joy can live even in the leanest of seasons. So, next time the cold seeps in and the wind rattles your window panes, spare a thought for those who came before. Who survived without central heating or full cupboards? Who found solace not in abundance, but in togetherness and in the enduring belief that no matter how fierce the frost, spring would always return. Thank you, dear listener, for joining me once more in this quiet journey into the past. If these stories bring you warmth or comfort, I'd be honored if you subscribed or shared them with someone else who might enjoy them. There are so many more tales to tell. But for now, I'll leave you to your rest. May your night be peaceful, dreams be kind, and the promise of spring keep your heart warm. Until next time, sleep well and stay cozy.